Hello. Previously I did kind of a monthly update on using Linux and Ubuntu specifically. I installed Ubuntu 18.04.1 LTS in October 26th in 2018. And when I record this, it's January 11th, 2019. So I've been using this on a daily basis for, October, November, almost 3 months. I have used Linux before. Previously, I used Ubuntu 16.04 LTS, but I had some problems with that, so I used it for 2 weeks and went back to Windows. But right now it seems to be working, and I put the previous video I made in the video description so you can read about the issues I had then. Right now I still have, well, not issues, but mostly it's related to networking. Yeah. And by the way, I actually reinstalled Ubuntu the 1st of January this year because I had been doing a lot of testing previously, and I just wanted to have a clean system because I noticed I started to have some kind of weird stuff going on. So I thought, well, it's the January 1st, let's just do a fresh install and set it up the way I want. So yeah. And the first kind of thing, you see these network icons. You have these icons up here, and this is the network connection. Sometimes I get a question mark on it. It looks like one of those cloud icons, you know, and then a question mark on top of it. I don't know what that is about. I don't know what question mark means. Internet still works, the network still works. I don't know if it has to do with my Samba share or whatever. No idea. I wish it would tell me what the question mark is about. Everything works, but still there's a question mark. It comes and goes. After like 10 minutes it's back again normally, and then I get the question mark again. I don't know, it comes and goes. And also I have a Linux server running Ubuntu server, and after an update it seems to have some problems connecting to some canonical stuff or Ubuntu. I don't remember, it was a link. It said it couldn't connect to this thing. And I should check my proxy. I don't run a proxy, so I run pfSense, but I don't use a proxy. So I don't know what that's about either. So I have still some problem with network speeds between computers, especially when sending files to another computer from my Linux machine. You could do, I could actually go show you the Samba thing. Okay, so right here directly on the global, I set it to this client min protocol and client max protocol. People said that this might actually fix the solution. It halfway fixed the solution, because receiving data from another computer, that is a little bit faster. Now I get about 80 megabytes per second instead of 60. But still sending files from this machine is still capped at 60 megabytes per second. And I'm running, on the server is running a RAID system with 3 drives in RAID 0. I use that for testing, and it's still capped at 60 megabytes per second. And on this machine I have an NVMe drive, and my storage drive is an SSD, so they should be able to read and write more than 60 megabytes per second, so that's not the issue. But it fixed one thing at least. Another thing, I have a shared folder on a Windows machine, and my Linux machine here had problems connecting to that shared folder. It couldn't connect, but with this one it actually worked. When I added this, now I can actually connect to a shared folder on a Windows machine. So that's kind of weird. The other thing, I have this shared here. I don't know if it's the question mark is related to this, but it should work. I don't know. Kind of weird. So yeah, that, and yeah, another thing, if I have the shared folders and I use file manager called Nemo instead of Nautilus, but I can't find a way to map network drives in Nemo. If I go to network, I don't have my computers on right now, but even though I can see my own computer here, but I can't see any other computer, not even my server running Linux. And if I go to Windows Network, still completely black here, doesn't find anything. That's kind of weird. So what I have to do is every time I need to map a network drive, I have to use Nautilus, go to other locations, and then down here in the right corner you have, I previously have this, so this 12, IP with 12, that's my Windows machine, and I just click connect and it will connect, and it will have, it shows up here D at IP number. But there's a way Nemo to do that. That's kind of weird. So I always have to use Nautilus to map that. So that's kind of the network issues that I have. And what else? Yeah, sometimes when I log in, the volume, this is the regular computer audio and this is the microphone. The audio on the desktop is set to 0, to minimum, when I log in. I don't know why it does that. So, kind of weird thing. It happens not all the time, but now and then. It's kind of weird. And while we're speaking of audio, I use pulse effects for the EQ. It has a bunch of other functionality, but I only use it for the EQ. And one kind of weird thing is that every time there's an update for pulse effects, it wants me to reset all the settings. So every time there's a notification here saying you should reset your settings. Why? I click no on that and it still works. So why the hell are they want me to reset everything every time there's an update? So kind of weird. And another thing, I have these presets for the EQ. And I actually, you can save these presets and then go into the config folder and grab those. So when you kind of reinstall the OS, you can easily just take them back, but that didn't work because when Pulse Effects updated, they also updated the sort of format for these presets, the file itself, so I couldn't import them. So why having this option to save the presets when they don't work, when you change the format every time you update? It's kind of pointless to having the ability to save the presets if they don't work next time you do something. So every time right now, if I'm going to reinstall anything, I just do a save it new, delete the files and save it new here. Kind of weird. So yeah, there are things like this that kind of annoys me. It's not a problem. Well, it's a problem that I can't import the presets again because they changed the format, but they are kind of more issues thing. So yeah, that's kind of what I have issues with at the moment. Just annoying things. Still, same thing with this NVIDIA here. I have two monitors and they have different resolutions. And every time I log in or start the computer, it's set to this. But so every time I had to drag it down and then click apply and then OK. If the monitors have the same resolution, it's not an issue, but they have different resolutions and you get the problems with this. Because you see there's an outline here, it sets it to the main monitor, kind of sets the super size. It's just one big monitor basically with two screens on it. So that's kind of how I see it. It's a huge monitor with two screens, and if they have different resolutions, you get some issues. I guess Linux, that's the way Linux handle things, I guess. But otherwise, things still work. I don't use Krita anymore as a image thing. I just never understood it properly. I use just Pinta instead. And some things I don't really recognize. This CAF plugin pack, I don't know what that is, but. And Amazon, I don't really need that because we don't have Amazon in Sweden. So, well, they have a data center here, but not the shop. Got different stuff here. What else? I don't have anything. Yeah, virtual machine. I use the Oracle VM thing, and I don't know. I set in the BIOS that it should support, virtual machines, the VT-D, and also enable the virtualization support in the BIOS. But I still got some performance issues in the virtual machine, and I don't know if it's the Oracle virtual machine software that's doing it or whatever, but even though I set the amount of cores properly and memory, I still have a lot of issues, performance issues, especially with Windows as a virtual machine. I had no issues with that in Windows running VMware. So I don't know what issues that is. So even though people say that if the virtual machine is slow, you should enable VTD in the BIOS, well, I have already enabled that, so. But I still have some issues with it. Spotify, Sublime Text, yes, I do that for text editing. And yeah, and one kind of thing people usually hassle Windows about, and that's the updates. Windows are getting usually updates once a month, and they are kind of forced upon you. You kind of have to. Well, not really. If you don't do anything, you only get the important updates. If you want a little bit more updates, you can click the search up for updates and you get a little bit more. And you get that once a month, and people complain about that. Well, it's good that it's updating, unless they break things. Recently, Microsoft are kind of breaking their updates, but I think it's a little bit worse sometimes on Linux because they update things more often. It's like every other day there's some kind of updates, and they will, Linux or Ubuntu at least, will notify you all the time. Well, there's an update, there's an update, there's an update. Especially with the, I don't really use it anymore, this live patch. And that's even worse. It's automatically updating in the background. And people say, well, Linux is good because you can choose yourself to update. You can choose yourself when you update. No, not when you use live patch. It's automatically updating software in the background, and I just get a notice about it. We just updated this software. What? I didn't tell you to update. So I don't use live patch at the moment. It says it's more secure, but in what way? It's not secure at all when you do it automatically in the background. I don't have to type any password or anything. It just updates. The fuck, man. So that's kind of weird. Otherwise, I don't really game that much. I just play Minecraft for the most part. So, and Java and everything works. OBS works, and I managed to install the browser source, so you can have alerts. This was kind of easy to do because the browser source is not included by default when you install OBS on Linux. It's called Linux browser instead of browser source or browser. But yeah, the video is getting long and I'm starting to ramble here. But yeah, otherwise I will keep using Linux because I'm starting to get used to it and the things. And yeah, I still have Windows 10 on a different drive. And I use some Adobe software on it. And people say, well, you don't need Adobe. Yeah, well, yes, I do. For some things, especially creating PDFs. And creating PDFs on here. I don't remember which one it was. Simple Scan or whatever. Yeah, this one. The Simple Scan basically saves everything as an image, kind of. Even though it's a PDF, the file size are huge. So when I scan a document, it basically saves it as an image, and it will get like several megabytes in size. But when I do it in Adobe, it will optimize it, and it's like 10% of the size. So if a document with Simple Scan is 1 megabyte in size, it will be like 100K with Adobe. So no, I'm not using Simple Scan. Unless you actually want big files. And also this snaps. I'm still having, you have these snaps. So all this stuff, it's kind of a new distribution system instead of PPAs, because when you search, for example, you do the sudo apt-get update. When you do this and you have a bunch of PPAs, you know, this list will be really, really long, and it can take a while to update this. So that's why they are trying to move to snaps and flatpaks, because it's a little bit easier to kind of thing to update. But for some reason they take a little bit longer to start this software. Even though I have an NVMe drive, it takes a little bit longer to start. Like when I start files and Nemo and stuff, it's kind of instant, but this will take like 10 seconds to start. So yeah. But anyway, I'm starting to kind of ramble here, so let's actually, it's a 20-minute video. So yeah, see you later.